Hi, my name is Melanie Padron. I am a risk management strategist and cybersecurity speaker in the trucking industry. I am also the director of business development at IT Architects. We are a veteran-owned provider of cybersecurity and IT solutions with locations in Dallas and Houston, but we serve customers across the United States.
Yeah, my name's John Hansman with Truett, and I am the CEO out in Washington State. It's where our offices are located, but we're serving all of the Pacific Northwest and wherever people call us to help out. We're going to have a really great conversation about cybersecurity today, and we can't wait to get started. What a great week we had.
No kidding.
Here at a cybersecurity conference, one of the ones that we attend on a regular basis, which is how we know each other through that group of people. We had a great week. We had Mike Michalowicz talking this week, and what an incredible experience, because he is so informed about how to grow business, how to market, how to do things in money. You look at like his book that he has that's Profit First.
Yeah.
He just has a wealth of knowledge, and he's stinking hilarious, which just makes watching him live on stage that much better.
I agree. It was my first exposure to him. I'm almost embarrassed to say that, but I'm really excited to dive into we got the book Be Different and all the ideas he had for marketing in ways that set you apart. And you're right, he's hilarious. So he's very engaging and dynamic to look at as someone who aspires to be a speaker. Like, I was very inspired by the dynamic way he spoke, and he was funny and he was animated and like had my attention the whole time, and not to mention just the things that he had to say.
He picked on you a little bit too.
He did.
Kind of fun to watch.
I know that. Yeah, I was the goody two shoes. I mean, if you found a $5 bill on the ground, would you just pick it up and pocket it, or would you look around for a minute?
It
first
depends on where I'm located.
I know.
I mean, like, that's just kind of it. But I think what's amazing about him is I've read a lot of his books. I've listened to his audiobooks, quite a few of them. And what you see on stage is what you hear in his books. Yeah. And we got some time to sit with him for lunch, and that's just his personality. And so he genuinely cares about small business. And I love what he said. And I think this is where we can start diving into cybersecurity. One of the things he said at lunch, he said that small business is not the backbone of the economy. It is the economy.
It is the economy.
So when we really dive in to what we do for a living, our job is to protect the economy.
That's right.
That's a lofty goal.
It is. It's a worthy goal.
It's a worthy goal.
The work we do is important.
And I think sometimes it's easy to just get lost in the work and forget that when we're talking about doing cybersecurity, when we're talking about protecting businesses, we're also protecting families.
That's right.
We're protecting livelihoods. We're doing a lot of things that some people don't fully get the gravity of what we get the opportunity to do.
You're right. We are increasing the overall cyber resiliency in our country.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? In a time when there's things shifting and changing and government may be pulling back on some areas. And I think we're going to see a world where the private sector gets the opportunity to step up.
Yeah. Yep. Well, let's talk about, this is an interesting subject, but we do, you and I do a lot of risk assessments. We look at a lot of businesses. We take a look inside their organization and their business, and we find the security gaps and we find those weaknesses. And it never fails when we're presenting the results of those risk assessments. The CEOs and the leaders of the companies are just flabbergasted at what we find. And so I today kind of just wanted to talk through some of the top security gaps that businesses have that they have no idea. They don't even know they have them. Maybe that would just be a good place to start a general conversation.
I think it's a great place to start.
Okay. So one of the things we find is software that's been unpatched for years. And the things we're going to talk about are things that businesses don't know, but criminals know, and they're counting on it. And so software should typically be patched as the updates come out. And I know as an individual, it's kind of a pain because you're like, your computer says, restart your computer. It's time to update your pad. And you're like, oh, I'm right in the middle of something. But it really is important that we as individuals update our computers and our software, but also whoever's managing the security, not just handling the IT at a company, because there's a difference between handling IT and handling cybersecurity. But whoever's handling the security of the company, it's very important that those applications get updated as the patches come out. And I know that they're categorized. Some are critical, some are high, some are medium. But when those critical, you talk to me about this because you're the tech. Talk to me about how you patch software and what your protocols are.
Yeah, so there's two separate pieces to how we patch software. And this is where sometimes people miss it. There's Windows, the Microsoft, the Apple, the actual operating system software, which in today's world, if you're not using a company like ours, it might be turned on automatically, or maybe you turned it off because you don't want to be bothered by it, which is what we're talking about. That's a dangerous place to be. There's the operating system, and then there's the actual separate applications. And you got to think anything that's built around touching the internet is generally going to have an update. Great example, Adobe Acrobat. It has a lot of internet components to it because it's able to save to the internet. It's able to process things. It's going to have some AI things in it. That has had updates. It has updates on a regular basis. All of the Adobe suite has access on a regular, updates on a regular basis. Most people just forget about the actual software unless it prompts them for an update. Mm-hmm. So part of a good updating process is to look at Windows. Yes, look at your Mac. But look at the software that's updating or needs to be updated as well. Make sure that you're actually updating and looking through. Usually it's under Help, where you can actually hit the update button to make sure you don't have any updates and actually go through that process. Now, as a managed service provider, we have tools that actually looks at all that for us. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the advantages that we have over maybe an in-house person who doesn't have tools, or that regular in-house cousin who's doing your IT for you, who doesn't have tools. They don't know that they need to look at all of those things. So a lot of times we might see when we go into an environment, maybe Windows is patched pretty good, like it's patched okay, because it's on auto update. But then we go in and we find out that all the critical pieces,
expert management of those tools that makes working with an MSP such an advantage over maybe just an IT guy who, isn't quite as skilled in those things.
Right. Well, it's the same reason I go to an auto shop. Mm-hmm. Right. I'm not an expert at taking apart an engine.
Okay. I
don't know all the checklist things that have to be done to do some of the things that they do for me.
Yeah.
But I take it to them because they know where to look, because they do it on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. They know how to properly follow the checklist to make sure that my truck's in good working order. I trust a professional to do that stuff. And it's the same thing with us.
Yeah.
Like, we have a checklist. We have things and holes that we know about because we see them regularly, that the average person or a person who maybe is just doing desktop support is not going to see.
A little dabbling.
Right. Because you and I sit in businesses all the time where we see unpatched systems. Mm-hmm. We see the CEO's password on the dark web. Mm. Yes. I've actually delivered that before. Yeah. And it's really interesting watching a person turn pink. When he looks at the screen, he goes, "That's my password."
Yes.
I know that. Yes, it's on the dark web. Yes,
right there for even the most novice of criminals to take advantage of.
And literally, and in one case, that's what got me the job was I found his password on the dark web.
Okay, so let's talk about passwords, because that's another thing we find all the time is passwords stored in browsers and plain text for even the most, like I said, the most novice of criminal who gets in can go right to your browser and see all your browser stored passwords. They are not encrypted.
Yeah.
If you have passwords stored in your browsers, take them out now, delete them. I say use a password manager. There are many free options out there. You can Google what are the top 5 free password managers. With a password manager, you only have to remember one main password. And then it will create long, unique, complex passwords. LUC, long, unique, complex. It's funny that it has an acronym that sounds like luck when luck has nothing to do with it. However, it will create and store all those passwords for you. It is encrypted.
Yeah.
It's not available for a criminal to get into. But gosh darn, those browser safe passwords are so convenient. When I'm in there and it says, would you like me to save your password? And I'm like, yes, I would, but I know better. And so I had to Google how to delete all of my browser stored passwords. And then I use Keeper, Password Manager. I love Keeper. And so now it creates and stores all of those for me. But that is also one of the top things we find is that employees and leaders of companies, key leaders, the people who have the keys to the kingdom, the passwords with the keys to the kingdom, are using browser stored passwords, or their passwords are so weak. Their password policies are weak. The last 3 ransomware events that we helped, my specialized vertical is trucking, transportation, and logistics. I know that you're in that space a little bit as well up in Washington, but one of the things we found was very weak password 123 or the company name 123. And I wish I was joking because it's so basic.
Right. I think the idea behind password should be, with the exception of your main password for your password manager, mm-hmm. if you're making passwords that are so easy for you to remember them, mm-hmm. they're probably bad passwords.
I agree.
and a case in point, I mean, if the world comes to an end, I've got bigger problems that I'm not going to worry about my passwords. But I don't know 99% of my passwords.
I don't either.
They're unique.
Yeah.
They're different for every platform.
Mm-hmm.
They're completely created. I didn't create them. I'm not creating something I'll remember with my dog's name and 123 or whatever.
Right.
They're completely different. So the chance of one of my critical pieces of architecture being hacked is going to be a lot slimmer because I'm using random passwords that is kept in a security vault. Mm-hmm. And the reality is when we go in and we do a risk assessment, we go scan for that. Mm-hmm. And if we can go in with a really basic scanner to scan and look for browser passwords, right. so can hackers.
Yeah.
That's literally that's the reality that we live in.
Yes.
Now, they're trying to make password managers in browsers better, but it's still not there.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to make it easy because Keeper can even go in and grab those passwords out of there for you. So I'm a big fan of password managers. I think the other thing that people neglect to think about password managers too is a lot of companies might have a platform that has a shared password. Mm-hmm. In other words, it's a platform that can only have one user on it. They're mm-hmm. paying for a subscription for something that doesn't have user architecture built in, so you can't have 5 users for it. You can share that password within Keeper, mm-hmm. and without giving out your password to everybody, it just gets automatically mm-hmm. input. Yeah. So there's also that advantage if you're having to sit in and use a product that doesn't have multiple users, but everybody needs access to it. You can mm-hmm. securely share that password.
Yep.
And that's another big point. And then there's just Keeper has so many things that you can store in it, not just passwords. I think people don't realize you can store credit cards more securely than your browser. You can support secured notes, so things that are really important. So sometimes I'll take the security the key that you use to get your information back, and I'll stick that in Keeper as well because it's a secure vault.
That's a good pro tip.
Yeah, and you want to know, just understand the difference between a browser and Keeper is just they have this zero trust architecture, which means that even Keeper, LastPass, all of these password managers, they can't get your information back. Now, remember your password, because if you lose it, it's gone, right? Yes. I can't tell you how many times that I've been put in the position where somebody forgets their password and we're like, remember how I said that's the one password you want to remember?
Yes. One.
That's the one.
The one.
And so we end up having to help them, and they have to reset a lot of passwords. But it's one of those. That's the beauty of a password manager,
right?
Is it's completely encrypted from end to end, mm-hmm. and even the people who created the product don't have access. Mm-hmm. That's reality. Not Keeper, but LastPass I don't even know how many years ago, 6 years ago got hacked.
Right.
The thing that kept people safe
Uh-huh.
was that zero trust architecture.
Love that. Let's talk about zero trust, because
Yeah.
not everybody uses zero trust. I feel like we're moving that way as an industry. I think that any MSP, any valid MSP has to move to a zero trust architecture. It should be something that they're talking about. But in my simplistic mind, I'm not the tech like you. I'm a risk management strategist. I'm a cybersecurity speaker. I'm the director of business development. So I consider myself the normal girl, the plain English person. And so I always say zero trust just means that only the people that are supposed to be in that part of your environment are allowed. How do you describe zero trust and its value to someone who doesn't understand what zero trust means?
Well, let's talk about a recent news story.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so
yeah.
we recently saw DOD, so this is National Guard, actually had a cybersecurity incident.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things in the article they point out is the need to adopt zero trust. Now, why the DOD doesn't have zero trust in some of its systems is beyond my imagination, but we're starting to see that, because in an office environment, say you've got 20 people, your accountants need accountant information.
Exactly.
They only need access to just the accounting server. Your front desk girl doesn't need access. The CEO doesn't even need access.
Right.
So why would we want to just have free access so that anybody can get to that part of the server? So what we're doing is we're literally just limiting access to key pieces of information or key parts to our network to job roles.
Okay. Sounds to me like you're talking about the principle of least privilege. So
Correct.
I imagine a castle. Our businesses are our castles. They're our kingdoms. And if a criminal gets in to one room, all the other doors are locked.
Mm-hmm.
And so he may get into a room, which is where we're going to isolate him and where we're going to catch him, but he can't just walk into all the other rooms in your kingdom because they're all locked down.
Correct.
And Melanie in sales and marketing does not need to have access to what my tech guys are doing over on the tech side or what the president of my company is doing on his side. I just need access to my sales and marketing information, that one area. And I'm not allowed to go anywhere else.
Correct.
And importantly, even Derek, the owner of IT Architects, will tell you that he's locked down. He only has access to certain areas of the company, and he owns the company. But you don't need more than a person or two that has that administrative
Correct.
privilege to everything.
Yeah.
Because those are the people that criminals are targeting.
100%. We even go as far to recommend, especially when you're talking about a Office 365 environment, create separate admin accounts that are separate from the CEO, from the CFO, making sure that, especially if you have a smaller business, it's less common in a larger business to have them have admin privileges. Mm-hmm. But if you have a smaller business that at some point had those people who created the account, even for us, our technicians don't have access to that.
Right.
Like my team, they have. Same me. I have to go onto a separate administrative account to make changes.
So that is the principle of the zero trust framework philosophy.
Right, exactly. And what we're talking about is the last thing you want to do is put the people who are going to be targeted the most in a position of having the most access.
Exactly.
Okay?
But they think they need it.
Right.
I have clients, and the owner of the company is the owner, and they want administrative access.
Yes.
And we try to, you know what, it's your business, but I'm going to explain to you why that's not a good idea. Right. And if you still want to do it, we've had business owners still insist that they haven't. We're like, okay, but I'm telling you what the warnings of that.
What we do is say, if you really have to have it, we're going to create a separate admin account for you. It will not be attached to the primary daily use account that you use.
Good point. Good strategy.
So if you really have to have it, that's fine. But you're going to have a separate password, separate user to log into that so that it's not attached to your primary account. So that if your primary account has a business email compromise, They don't just have access. They might get access temporarily to a OneDrive or whatever, but we don't want them to have access to the admin side.
You know, it brings up, let me tell a story. It brings up, I had a client, owner of a chain of businesses, 21 different businesses within her organization. And she received a whaling attack, which it's the same thing as phishing, except it targets the biggest fish in the company, which is the owner. And so she received a text message from her bank's fraud department, from who she thought was her bank's fraud department, saying, "Did you just make this transfer?" And she said, "No." And they said, "Call us right away, or we'll call you right away." So they called her from the bank's actual phone number that she had stored in her phone. They spoofed the bank's phone number.
Gosh.
So she's seeing that it is her bank calling, and she answers. And she's like, "No, I did not approve that transaction." And they're like, "Great, we need you to log in and do this." And when I tell you she was one click away from logging in she's listened to my training enough, she's been my client long enough, that she shut down everything and she picked up the phone and called us. And thank goodness, because these are so sophisticated. This didn't come through an email. This came to a text on her personal phone. They had her LLC information. They had her banking information. She was targeted because she was the owner of the business. And if her infrastructure wasn't set up correctly under that zero trust, and if she had hit enter and given them her credentials, she had the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah, 100%.
And they would have immediately started ACHing all the money out of her business bank account. And this is a business that this is a father-daughter business. It is a legacy that they have built for their family. And I grew up in, my family owned a chain of convenience stores. And so I'm very passionate about protecting those types of family businesses. And I mean, it was such a close call, but it was so sophisticated and so tricky.
Right. I think people know that most criminals don't care. But it goes deeper than that. Years ago, I sat with a guy at a really small business as far as his office staff was just 2 or 3 people. But he had a lot of people who did spraying, like power washing of bridges. That was the primary business that he had. And he lost $60,000 to a Russian hacker. Mm-hmm. I actually talked with him on the phone. Somewhere in the depths of my phone, I still have that recording. And it was chilling talking to them because they literally said, "I will take everything. I don't care. I don't care. Give me what I want or I'll take everything. I want 20,000. I see you told me earlier you have 150,000. I will take everything." They don't care. They don't care about how it impacts people. They don't care about the fact that it's a family business, that it's going to put somebody out of business. They just want their piece of the pie, if you will. And we're literally talking about just evil people who are just trying to steal money. And they will go at all different matters of doing that to make it happen. And the challenge that we face, we have so much more sophistication today than we did 5 years ago. I mean, think about how many more things we're getting through text message. Everybody's had the tolling text messages.
Yes.
Everyone's had those. Yes. Now, the first one, you're looking at it like,
did I miss a toll?
Did I drive there?
Yeah, right.
But then you start to realize, okay, this is a scam. But there's a lot of people who fell for it because they happen to drive to that area and it made sense to them. People are having to get creative because companies like ours are getting better.
Absolutely.
That's just the reality. And the reality is that if you're sitting without a cybersecurity company, you're trying to do this on your own, you're combating people who are using AI tools, who are now have enough money in their organization. I'm not even calling them a business, their organization, that they can buy whatever tool they need to try to attack your business.
Mm-hmm.
And they will go after you with everything they got.
You bring up a good point, because it is an organization, but they're running it like a business.
Oh, 100%.
They have ransomware as a service where they are literally training the next generation of cyber criminals to come in and drop these ransomware payloads. And interestingly, we helped a trucking company just last year who forensics discovered, they came to us after they were attacked, unfortunately. They thought they were doing things right. They did have a small IT staff in place. There were security alerts coming in for a year. They were going to a folder or folders, security folders, that nobody was actually monitoring. IT said it wasn't his responsibility. The owner didn't think it was his. The CEO didn't think it was hers. Literally, alerts were going off all year to these folders. So criminals had been in their system for over a year. Forensics determined that the first criminal organization that came in simply lived off the land and did reconnaissance work and gathered information. When they had enough information that it was valuable, they sold it to a second ransomware gang who was responsible for dropping the payload and demanding the ransom. And it was a $300,000 ransom. Wow. And let me tell you, just because you pay the ransom doesn't mean you're going to get the encryption key. As you mentioned, these are not honorable, loyal people with any type of a conscience. And so this trucking company is one today that we're completely rebuilding their infrastructure, but they had no incident response plan in place. So nobody really knew what to do when that happened, which is another benefit to using an MSP. Our cyber stack has been battle tested against ransomware right in the trucking industry. We have an incident response plan where everybody knows what they're doing, both at our company and at the client. And you combine that experience together, and timing is an issue. You know, every second counts. And this company didn't have that incident response plan. They didn't want to shut down their systems. You know, they didn't want to shut down their operations, which gave the criminals even more time to do even more damage. And so because they didn't partner with us until after the fact, there was a lot of operational disruption. There was a lot of data loss, and they paid that ransom. And now we're rebuilding from scratch.
Right. I think that's the crazy thing when you think about this. We've got this happened to us similarly, where we ran into a company probably a year before they had ransomware, and ransomware was the thing that got them through our door.
Unfortunately, pain.
Right. And it was a huge thing for them. And I happen to talk with those hackers too. I have a habit of talking with these Russian gangs. Now, the difference between the chilling one that I talked about earlier and this one sounded like a really good customer support help desk.
Isn't that crazy?
They said please and thank you. They said it's a pleasure working with you. And I'm like, wait, it's a pleasure stealing my money? I'm really confused here. And they treated it like a business. We really want to help you get your stuff back, but it's going to cost you this amount of money. Like it was just mind blowing that now this has become literally a business. It's literally people treat it. They have a help desk of people who sit around and take calls and actually treat it like a customer service hotline. It's just, it's insane to me. I think what gets me is just the amount of people who don't have anything at all, or they have no plan. Like, you can go in and ask somebody, what happens if you have a cybersecurity incident? I just go buy all new computers.
Yeah. I'll just wipe them and start fresh.
Just wipe them and start fresh.
Why doesn't that work?
Yeah.
Tell us why that doesn't work.
Well, I think what most people don't realize is that we don't live in the world of hardware. Hardware is a means to access all of the data that sits in the cloud. So when you say, I'm just going to go wipe it and start all over, they're neglecting to realize that in a ransomware attack, the data isn't just ransomed, it's most likely stolen. So when you're talking about this happening, particularly think about medical, or think about even logistics, where there's a lot of addresses, there's a lot of information that's going out with logistics. All that information gets stolen, which means now the ransomware gang has access to all of your database. They have access to all your customers. They have access to their email addresses. They have access to who's the CEO. They have a lot of information they can do a lot of damage with, both against you and other people. You're not protecting hardware. You're protecting data.
And people, because then they can take that information and they can do other fraudulent things with that information. If I have somebody's company information or a client's business information, I can take that and I can go open fraudulent accounts in those people's names.
Exactly.
And so that puts the company's reputation, the customer trust. It's not just the operational downtime. It's not just the ransom paid. Like, how do you put a price on a company's reputation that they've spent decades building up, or the customer trust, or the damage it does to those customers? I know we've all been, all of our data is on the dark web at this point. Like, it's all been leaked.
It's all out there.
I mean, I'm getting so many, every day I get a phone call about being late on taxes and being part of this, we're here to help you with your taxes. You're part of a tax, fraud protection program or whatever. I'm like, quit calling me about my taxes. That's not true. But so, when all of our information is out there and then we start receiving all these texts and all these calls, I had an AT&T account at one time that was breached. I had a Frontier account at one time. My data was breached from there. Like
AT&T, yeah.
So, okay, let's talk about some things that individuals can do. Since our information is out there, I tell everybody, go freeze your credit. Go to the 3 credit agencies, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Freeze your credit. All that means is that if you want to open a line of credit, if you need to refinance your house or do something, you just unfreeze it with the click of a button.
Yeah.
But it means that nobody else who has your data can go open an account in your name.
Right. At the bare minimum, you should have something to scan and tell you every time. So, like anytime I run what am I saying? Anytime I go out and I run a credit check to get a credit card, buy a car, whatever, I have a tool that actually within about an hour sends me a message saying that my credit was run.
Yes.
Like that's a really basic thing that you can do. You should be looking at your credit regularly, making sure there's nothing open. You want to, there are also some tools that have come out recently to actually scrape your information from data brokers. There's a lot of tools out there for that. I just started doing that for myself. So I'm actually looking for information.
Is Incogni one of those? Why do I want?
I think Incogni is one of them. I'll have to look. I don't know. I can't remember all the other ones. I can look at my phone, but
Google it.
But there's a lot of data broken removal tools.
Yeah.
And they're fantastic because they're actually going out, looking for your information, and then sending a request to actually pull that information back.
I need to do that. I haven't taken that step yet.
I think it's a great idea.
I do too.
Yeah. I think we live also in a world of where we're not as private as we used to be. If you're on social media, your information's out. Even, and I think people forget that even the things you do on personal Facebook affect business. Here's an example. It drives me up the wall. People fill out those chain emails that are like, where were you born? What was your dog's name? What was your favorite place to visit? All these personal questions.
Yeah.
And then they post them on the internet on a scam.
Yeah.
And what most people don't realize is that it's really just a way for a hacker to find that information and use it against you. Because what's one of the main ways to reset your password? 3 questions.
Yes.
Isn't it convenient that most of those chain emails have at least 1 or 2 or more of those questions in that big long list of things that people fill out in the name of, I'm just trying to be closer with people. I just want people to know more about me on social media.
Right.
What they don't realize is what happens is, especially if you post that publicly, that company who created, or that company, they're not a company, that person who created that goes and just does a search on Facebook with the exact beginning words of that post. And now all the people who filled it out all show up in a string, and they can now grab information, and they already have your name. They've got all this information. Now all they got to do is scrape the internet for your email address.
So also principle of least privilege when sharing your information. Don't share anything that you don't need to.
Yeah.
So when I'm creating say I want to go shopping
Mm-hmm.
and I'm creating a new account somewhere, should I check out as a guest or should I create an account? Because don't a lot of those places sell my information?
As a guest.
Okay.
If I like to buy from one particular place, there's two ways you could do it. You can go just create a separate email address just for shopping and use that for everything because now everything's just in one spot there.
Okay.
Apple has had out for a while a kind of an incognito email thing where you can actually on the website give a fake email address. That's just a one-time email address. It stores it. And it goes to your main email address, but they never actually end up having your real email address. So if that organization gets compromised, they don't have your real email address. They've got the one-time use email address that Apple created.
Gotcha. Okay.
Kind of a cool idea.
Yeah.
So that's an option for personal shopping. I started doing some of that where it's just a unique email address for shopping if I'm ever going to shop there again. Yeah. I think it just depends. To me, we just live in this world of risk.
Yes. Yeah.
It's literally like
always be suspicious.
We just have to bubble wrap everything that we touch.
Trust but verify. Yes.
But I mean, just the reality is that at some point, something you're using is going to have a data breach.
Yeah. All right. They're storing it. It's their responsibility. And I always have to talk to them about the fact that your vendor's security concern is 100% your concern because people don't know this, but think of a warehouse. The warehouse is not responsible for the things that you store in. At the fine print in a lot of those contracts, it says you hold them harmless for if your data is damaged or lost or stolen.
And that's the big ones. That's the big ones like Microsoft and Google are saying, hey, basically, if we lose all your stuff, you're hosed. There was a recent case out of the States. So it was in the UK or somewhere where Google had some kind of issue and all these people's data disappeared. Now, eventually Google got it back. But they, in the process of that conversation, was like, well, it's in our terms and conditions that if we did end up losing it, it's not really our fault. Yeah.
So you can outsource your technology, but you're not outsourcing your risk.
No.
And API security is another big one in the trucking industry. So I always think of cloud vendor security as, can I trust this company? You need to be vetting your vendors. You've got to be asking questions about their security. How do they access your company? What are their security procedures? What is their incident response plan? But we're also have to be concerned with how the applications are accessing. If an application is accessing your company in some way, you pull up, you exchange your money, you get your product, but you never go inside. That's how I think of API security. It's like where the application meets and how it interacts with your company. And that's a really big issue because most companies don't even have a basic inventory list of all the APIs that are accessing their system, let alone know companies. What are the questions that companies need to be asking, both vendors and the applications that those vendors provide?
Yeah. So I think there's two parts to it. API security has a so that you have to refresh those keys.
Mm-hmm.
With some of those vendors, you want to just make sure that they follow best practices for where they store how they're storing data. Because you got to understand, you might have your initial place where all that API, where your initial data is hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
You've got an API connection to pull it,
Mm-hmm.
and then it goes to another application. Okay, the API connection is probably secure, and maybe your primary place is secure.
Mm-hmm.
But what about that third-party vendor who's accessing your information?
Mm-hmm.
Are they following best practices? Do they have a plan? Is their information encrypted?
Mm-hmm.
Are they doing crazy things like leaving API passwords in their code for people to find? It's happened.
Yeah.
There's a lot of conversation in the government about holding them responsible.
Mm-hmm.
That's finally starting to happen, to say, hey, if a vendor, like a software vendor, has a compromise,
Mm-hmm.
and we find that they could have done something about it, we're going to start holding them responsible. But it doesn't solve your data problem.
Right.
Like, I think there's a mindset shift that we struggle with in cybersecurity. Not we,
Mm-hmm.
the people we talk to every day,
Yeah.
struggle with this idea that, again, I can just replace my computers. But shouldn't you have a little bit of care towards the people down the road?
Absolutely.
Shouldn't you have a little care that if you're not doing everything you should, your clients might face the same issue?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you want to be known for the person who got hacked, and then now all your clients are now exposed to risk because you didn't do anything?
Right.
Like, there's just this, I'll just replace it. But you don't understand. There's data that's involved.
Mm-hmm.
And API security is really, it's a place where it makes life easier because it connects things together and it makes
Right.
things work really cool.
Yeah,
And I think it's amazing.
it is.
I'm building some really cool API things out to make my business run smoother.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I'm looking at that other vendor and looking at how they handle things. Do they have a plan? Or, a bigger vendor? And I think it's a question. Most businesses should look at their top 5 software vendors
Mm-hmm.
and allow companies like ours to interview them.
And I think it also goes back to having an actual cybersecurity specialist that can
Yeah.
expertly manage the tools. One of the things that we provide at IT Architects is key vendor management. We manage those relationships for you, for the business, so that they are secure, so that they are, protecting your data and accessing your data securely.
Yeah, I agree. And we do that at Truett as well. Like, one of the things that I think separates what I think separates a IT person in-house, a older traditional IT company, from one of a company like the two of ours,
Right.
is we're really more on that high-end partner level. And you just talked about it. Well, we help manage relationships.
Mm-hmm.
That was not a thing in the industry 5 years ago. In a lot of businesses, it still isn't. Well, that's out of scope. We don't manage anything like that. We just provide you, basics, maybe security, like virus protection and some little basic consulting.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't manage anything. When companies like Truett and yours as well, we look at things as a whole holistic. How do we get that out of the hands of the customer?
Mm-hmm.
Let them go about building and growing their business and making money the way they know how best.
Right.
Let us handle those relationships. Let us steer the boat towards best cybersecurity practices.
Mm-hmm.
Let us build a plan for you so that when stuff hits the fan, you have a plan and you know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key difference between an old traditional IT company who just, is charging you pennies on the dollar,
Yeah.
and a company who's actually charging you a fair wage, if you will, for the work that we're doing.
Right.
And we're not going to be the cheapest guys in town.
Nope, we're not Walmart.
We're
I
not
say that
Walmart.
all the time.
Yeah, we're not Walmart.
I know that both of us both of our companies share similar philosophies, and we do not piecemeal security solutions together. It's not like an a la carte plan.
Right.
We have a layered security approach where all of the tools are like cogs in a well-oiled
Right.
machine, and they all work off of each other. And having that layered security approach is so important to slowing criminals down when they
Yeah.
get in. Every layer of that security solution is designed to do something different that slows that criminal down so that we can get in and
Right.
stop them.
I like to equate what we do to like doctor's offices or doctors, like say a surgery. Let's take a surgery, for example. Doctor says, you need to get your hip replaced.
Mm-hmm.
You don't ask for the doctor for an itemized list of every screw that's going into your hip and say, do I really need that one?
Yeah.
You trust that the doctor's going in with your best interest at heart, has done all the research to figure out exactly what you need in your hip to properly set you up.
Yeah.
And when we look at cybersecurity from an approach that we're coming at it, we're building a specific plan for your exact business. We know the trucking industry. We know the industry that you're in. And we're literally coming at you saying, look, this is what's happening in your industry. These are the things we need to protect against. So here's what it costs to do that. Mm-hmm. Versus, well, we could do these things for you if you want, but we also have another plan.
Yeah.
Do you really want to be protected?
Do you want the good, better, or best?
Yeah,
no.
I hate that. It drives me up the wall.
No, we provide the best.
And I did it.
But times have changed.
Times have changed.
It's not enough anymore. And we are going to give your business what you need to be protected because we have the experience to prove it works.
Correct.
Anything less is not enough to protect you. And, let's start how we talk and how we know this. One of the things I know both of our companies do is we start with a comprehensive risk assessment.
Yeah.
We go in and it's like the x-ray. It's like the look inside. You wouldn't, to your medical analogy, you wouldn't go to a dentist and have him do a root canal on your tooth without first taking some x-rays because he wants to know what he's digging into. Yeah. He needs to know exactly what problems could come up while he's in there.
Exactly.
And so that comprehensive risk assessment, it looks at your people and shows you your weakest links. It looks at your applications. It looks at your data. It looks at your network. It looks at all of these places. And then we know exactly what's going on inside before we even dive in and offer that solution.
Yeah, I think it does two things. One, are you a ticking time bomb?
Yes. I
ran into an electrical company. They had 30-something staff. We did a full risk assessment on them. Found crazy stuff because they had an in-house brother-in-law that they had who was part of the family, and it was too emotional to get rid of him. But he'd already cost them $30,000 in data loss before. And we went in and did a risk assessment. One of the things we did was we actually did a phishing test.
Okay.
50% of their people failed.
It's pretty.
50% of their people failed.
Yeah. People are the weakest link, John.
Time will tell because they decided they wanted to go the cheapest route. Mm-hmm. And they went with the person in town that he has a history of undercutting people, but they said, well, we don't really want all that because we don't want to pay for it. And he went, okay.
Well, you can lead a horse to water.
Right. And at the end of the day, at some point they're going to get hit with ransomware, and I wonder where that figure is going to point. But we go into these places and I shake my head because I'm going like, I literally just gave you the evidence that you're one click away and you're in construction. You're one click away from having somebody send a $50,000 invoice to the wrong place. Mm-hmm.
Do you have a check and balance procedure in place for that? And you made a good point because we do the risk assessment, but then we provide that information. Right. All of the information, all of the security gaps, all of the weaknesses to the business owner so that then he can make the decision on how to manage his risk.
100%. And a comprehensive plan.
Right.
Like, that's the other thing that I love about those risk assessments is they're part of our process, but they're a really good way to help the business understand all the little things that need to change to make their business more secure. Mm-hmm. And it gives them a roadmap to one, see how much a cybersecurity incident could cost them, but it gives them a roadmap to success.
Absolutely.
And we're smart enough to know that we can't prevent any 100% of hacks. That's not possible.
No security can.
Yeah. If anybody ever says that to you, I can, run. That's run for the hills, because it's not possible. But what I can say is both of our companies in the last 2 years have stopped multiple cybersecurity incidents we've saved hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of dollars from businesses that would have otherwise had data compromises. They would have otherwise had complete, most of ours were business email compromises.
Right.
And some of these were $20 to $30 million organizations that sent a lot of money out multiple directions. And guess who they targeted? Accounting.
Yes.
And HR.
They target who handles the money.
Correct.
Yes.
So they targeted the people who actually could have made bigger mistakes.
Right.
And we had, both of them were Russian for the ones that we did for this one company. Both of them were Russian. 6 minutes from beginning to end. Got in, out, kicked out, done.
Wow. Yep.
That's crazy.
Less than the time it takes to drink a cup of
does.
coffee.
And you think about that, because the average time that we see for somebody who's not protected is 120 days. You had a unique case of over years. That's insane.
So you're saying it takes on average 120 days to even detect that someone is in your system. That's the average.
And the only reason they normally detect them is because they do something after that 120 days. So the standard way that a hacker gets into a system, a lot of times it's business email compromises, so we use that as an example, but it happens the same way on servers, infrastructure. So they get in, they sit and they watch, they figure out what kind of activities coming in through email, what they will start searching through documents. They'll start looking around. Ooh, what do I have here? Ooh, this could be a lot of fun.
They imitate the behavior between the people who move the money, the CEO communicating with his staff, the accountant.
They'll look at things like signatures that are in emails. They'll look at language. They may, in this world now, start analyzing it with AI. And then from there, they start building a plan. How are we going to get these people to fall for one of our scams? And then they start working on the plan. And then after that 120, it varies, right? It could be 30 days, could be 60 days, whatever.
Right.
Once they've got their plan together, they then execute. And that's when they get noticed.
Yeah. And using AI, the emails that they're writing are not from the Prince of Nigeria with misspellings. They are really, really hard to detect. I mean, let's give everybody some tips on what to look for. I always tell people, look at the email address. Does the email match the domain where it's coming from? But as far as picking up misspellings or typos, the smallest thing, like changing a 0 to an O, those are not things that even the human eye can always see.
Correct. We don't. We see an email from Mary who sends us an invoice on a regular basis, and we go, "Oh, look, Mary sent me an invoice." They're smart. They waited until the first of the month to send out that email, so it's just mixed in with everything, and people don't look around as much. I think the other thing is, what's funny is you'll see a lot. We've seen this quite a bit. The body of the message is really well crafted, but the subject looks like shit.
Okay.
We've seen the subject just completely misspelled, but the rest of the body is obviously generated by AI.
Yeah.
And this is a good case for why you don't use Gmail accounts for your own business.
Right.
Because that domain security is another layer of defense in your business.
Yep.
It's another layer that keeps your business secure and helps your employees stand out from other cyber criminals or from cyber criminals in general.
Yeah.
Because when you look and you've got a domain and you've got a Gmail address, oh wait, obviously that's not from them.
Right.
It gives even your customers an additional layer of security.
I tell everyone to be politely paranoid. Pick up the darn phone and verify.
100%.
Don't do anything until you pick up the phone and verify with the number you have, not with the phone number that came in the email or the text now, or however. You independently verify. Do I actually need to pay this invoice?
Right.
It's 2 minutes, but it does so much to shut down some of those scams. And it's okay to be politely paranoid. Don't be rude about it.
Most
But
people would rather you call and ask than
yes.
have to deal with the trouble of having to clean that up.
Yeah.
It's a 2-minute thing that saves you hours and hours and hours of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that's really common in those emails, I think is important to bring up, is urgency.
Yes. Fear,
urgency is the most common thing that you see in those emails. Act now, or you're going to get your account suspended.
Right.
Or emails that are like, someone's in your system now, put your password in to fix it, right? It's if you see emails that are more urgent than normal from a particular person, that's a really good sign also to double check. Urgency is it's a really great sales tool. It's also a really great way to scam people.
Right. So anytime you're feeling emotional, step back.
Yeah.
Take a breath. Ask yourself, does this make sense? And then pick up the phone and verify.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think we do a lot of training around that. That's why cybersecurity training. We should pivot over to that.
Okay.
I think that's really great. I think that's a great place to go. Okay. So most people don't think about how important it is to actually train your staff. You were saying earlier, you sit with some of your clients and do in-person training. So do we, depending on what their need is. Mm-hmm. But we provide also online and regular training that comes in, like a weekly micro training, for example.
We do too.
Super important. There's two reasons for that. Cybersecurity should never be a box you check. There's boxes we check, right? That's part of good IT.
Right.
But when you talk about cybersecurity in general, it should be a culture thing in your business, not a box you check. Yes. It should not be like that CPR class you take every 3 years. Okay, we checked the box. Okay, I know CPR. I can now save a life. Yeah. It's really meant to be a way to keep your customers and your employees thinking through, how do we best protect ourselves? Mm-hmm. How do we spot things that are abnormal? Mm-hmm. How do we keep up on the latest trends of things that are happening? And we really want to use that as a way to encourage people to think cybersecurity first. It should be a cultural thing. I also think it should be a fun cultural thing. So we actually encourage our clients to turn it into a fun business culture thing. Yeah. In other words, turn it into a game. Yeah. A lot of the tools like our training tool actually has scores. It actually has a leaderboard. It actually has things in it to make it more fun and to make it where, hey, if we can keep our score at this height for the business, we're going to do a big party to celebrate. If you, the individual, get your we're going to celebrate the fact that we're taking steps to keep our business safe. Just like anything else in business, culture's really important. And I think cybersecurity is definitely no exception to that.
Yeah, I do. Because we are human and we do get emotional and we do get rushed and we do have bad days and we have things that happen that distract us. And taking that weakest link and turning them into cyber warriors by creating the culture of awareness, creating even if you initially clicked it, the faster you report it, the faster we can identify and isolate it and take care of it. And so creating this culture of a see something, say something. Something seems suspicious, report it, let us know. And then rewarding those behaviors and rewarding those employees and praising them for, hey, I clicked on this, but man, I knew right away and I reached out and I reported it right away. We need to praise those people and create a safe environment where we're talking about, hey, I just got this weird email. Is it a scam? Oh yeah, I got that weird email too.
Yeah.
So we're absolutely rewarding and celebrating people for bringing it up, seeing something and saying something.
I would say, just knowing our culture as a company, we don't mind. We would much rather your team send us a bunch of emails that take us 2 minutes or 1 minute to go, nope, ignore that, than have to deal with a big cybersecurity incident because you clicked on something or did something you're not supposed to. I don't have any problem with people being over worried or over concerned and looking at emails with scrutiny.
Yeah.
I'd much rather have that.
We don't either. In fact, when one of our clients has an employee that like reports that catches a fish or reports, catches that phishing email, we praise them and we celebrate them. And we're sure to speak highly of those employees to the supervisors and say, hey, go pat that person on the back. They just recognized, a phishing attempt.
Right. And I think there's tools we can put in place to help that process.
Absolutely.
So I'll just throw out, we love iron scales. You guys use iron scales at all?
No, I don't think we do.
Iron scales is great. So it sits in parallel with Microsoft or Google. It does a couple cool things. So one, if someone that email address has never emailed your business before, or you as a person, it pops up with a red banner that says, this is a new person who's never emailed you before.
We do have a tool that does that.
Okay, so you have a similar one. Here's why I like that type of tool. Here's a great use case for it. So say Mary sends you her invoices. Pick on Mary, whoever that is. Pick on Mary. Mary sends you invoices every month, and then you get an email from Mary that has the red banner. It's going to trick you to go, well, Mary doesn't normally have a red banner. What's going on here? Oh, look, Mary's email isn't the right email address. Oh, maybe something's going on. Mm-hmm. That tool uses AI, almost like yours, to look at the email language. It looks for urgency. It looks for what they're asking for. It does some AI magic to actually start looking through those things and will actually quarantine and let you know. The other coolest thing is it's crowdsourced. So if somebody in a different tenant that's maybe even not related to us there's a common scam, people mark it, and it helps crowdsource that exact scam across all of their platform. So there's cases where people have seen that and they've clicked on it and it's actually pulled the email into quarantine after it's been delivered. People have actually seen it come in and go away. Very cool. Because they're either their teammates or somebody else from the whole crowdsourced labeled it as a legit scam, and it would actually pull it back. So
back to learning from each other.
That's it. And one of the things that we look at, we're not putting all of the requirements of people to figure it out. We have tools in place to help them. But cybersecurity training is like the biggest thing that you can do. The tools just make their life easier. Right. It's just right. And does a little bit of prevention so that we're seeing less stuff getting to mailboxes.
Yes.
Welcome to story time.
Okay. Well, story time with John and Melanie.
So I know you've got some stories. I think it would be valuable. I'm sure you've got video of it somewhere, maybe. But you've got the story of a couple that you told for your speech this weekend.
Yeah.
Or this week. It's not the weekend yet. This week. So it'd be cool to talk about some of the cybersecurity incidents that you guys have stopped.
Okay. Let me tell you, how about I do one? I'll start with the tragic. And already, it was 9:00 at night when we got a call from an already financially distressed 95-year-old trucking company, okay? They were in the midst of a ransomware attempt. They were panicked, completely panicked. The ransomware had encrypted 800 endpoints, all 800 endpoints. It was across 75 trucking terminals nationwide. And so we were called in to help with the recovery. Our team worked day and night. We managed to get most of their core operational systems back up and running. Unfortunately, due to the operational downtime, the extreme amount of data loss, and those existing financial pressures, this century-old trucking company went out of business a year later. And we did help them do that in the most respectable way possible. But just a tragedy that would happen to, this is an industry that keeps our country moving and running. And we're so spoiled and take for granted everything that these trucking and logistics companies do for us. We just walk into a store and we expect things to be there.
Right.
And God forbid there not be toilet paper. We literally melt down, right?
Literally.
So that would be a tragic story. And I'll tell you, they had very little cybersecurity framework in place. They had weak password policies. Literally, we found password 123. Their firewalls were not adopted. It affected their dispatch center. Their call center was dark. I mean, and they just did not have the cybersecurity in place that they needed to. A triumphant story. I love this one. So we had a trucking client, and we had a meeting with them. We did a cybersecurity risk assessment. We showed them where their vulnerabilities were, where the security gaps were, and they saw those vulnerabilities, and they saw the value and what we were offering and suggesting. And so this was in July. We began upgrading them to our full cybersecurity solution for the trucking industry. In December, this was just in the nick of time. In December, they were hit with what forensics would call a sophisticated ransomware attack out of Russia. Fortunately, our alerts went off. The bells and whistles sounded. Our team sprang into action. We isolated and contained the systems. We engaged with forensics, and this time in a relatively short 5-day forensics investigation, once we got the green light to restore, we had them back up and running in 18 hours. And we had them restored to within 15 minutes of that original attack. We do our backups in a very specific way, in a very excellent, sophisticated way. So they lost zero data. They had zero encryption. They paid zero ransom. The entire disaster was averted because our cybersecurity stack and our incident response plan worked exactly the way it was supposed to. And so when I say we don't piecemeal together our security solutions, we provide what a trucking company needs to be protected because we have the experience to prove it works. Mm-hmm. So that's two of my stories.
That's awesome. I love it. We actually don't have as many. I mean, I don't have anything huge like that. Most of what we've seen the last few years since we've really pivoted to cybersecurity has been business email compromises.
Very common. A very common entry point.
It's a common entry point that generally can lead to ransomware.
Yes.
I know that one of our clients, we had installed, when we first took them over, they had a Exchange server, like an old Exchange server, which later on, I think it was 3 months later, the big Exchange server, big compromise, craziness happened. And when we installed our software, within a month, we started seeing a weird activity on that Exchange server. By that time, now, what had happened was our tools that were on that Exchange server, some scripting tried to run, and it stopped it. Mm-hmm. And when we dug into it, it was a ransomware game trying to encrypt that Exchange server and get access from a port that we had just found left open. We had just shut that server down. It was literally we had just transferred all the data. We were getting into them into the cloud environment, and we were within a couple of days of that thing being decommissioned. What we think, and this is what's really common when we walk into environments that have had previous IT companies that are not cyber focused or people, it's hard to know how long those things have been compromised. Mm-hmm. Especially when you walk into an environment and you install your software, and within weeks you start seeing bells and whistles going off. Mm-hmm. There's always a good chance that people have been in other places. And it proves to us that we're doing the right thing, because now our software is actually, going off, finding and stopping threats that have happened. And who knows? When we did our initial investigation, just our basics risk assessment, we didn't see much going on, but we did find all the holes that would tell us that they weren't protecting their servers. They weren't patching them properly. They had passwords in Notepad for their server environment. It was crazy. And that same company has been the target of multiple business email compromises, all of which our software stopped. I think they had the attempt of 3 last year where someone actually clicked on the link, but our software locked them out immediately.
Well, and to your point, we know that once a company has been targeted, they are statistically more likely to be
100%.
targeted again and again and again.
Yeah,
So,
and what we also find is that when you have really good SEO or you have really good marketing, that ups your chance of being targeted.
mm-hmm.
So if you're on Google Analytics and you see your numbers going up on your website, the chances are that you're going to see more sophisticated attacks.
Mm-hmm.
It's another reason why we recommend don't put email addresses, things like that on your environment. Like don't put it on your website.
Right.
Because that you're just asking people to use that information for bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's most of what we've dealt with. We're kind of like your first story. Fortunately, the one that we had, they didn't go out of business. But they lost a lot of data and had to hire people to replace it.
Yeah, that's costly.
It's costly.
It's a lot, an ounce of prevention. You know the old cliche.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So. Cool. Well, this has been a really fun conversation. What a blast.
John, I'm so thankful that you're here in my home state. I hope that you have felt the Southern hospitality.
I might have to just fly out and do another one of these every once in a while.
I would love that. Or maybe I'll fly up to Washington.
Yeah, I'll get it. I'm trying to build a studio.
Yeah.
That's one of my goals. I would love to build a studio. Just something very similar to this. This is a great location.
This is. I love Buddy Broyles here at the Blue Mike Studios.
Yeah,
he always takes all the technical headaches out of everything for us, and it's
so
such
fun.
a great place to host podcasts and have conversations like this.
Yeah. So, do you have any final words for people who are in the Houston metro area or wherever who are looking, or maybe they've heard something that resonates? How can they get to you?
Yeah, I would say reach out. We offer free cyber strategy sessions, just a short conversation to kind of help get you pointed in a right direction and a plan of action for moving forward. They can reach me, Melanie at itarchitects.com. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I do a ton of free cyber awareness training. Every week I'm putting out little cyber briefings and what the latest scams are. So connect with me on LinkedIn. I love to connect on that platform as well. How about you?
Yeah. So my name's John Hansman again. I know it's funny. I don't know that I introduced myself at the very beginning of this, but maybe we'll just redo that or something. Okay. Well, my name's John Hansman. I own Truett. And if you're in the Pacific Northwest, so that's Washington, all of Washington, Oregon, we are specialized the same way Melody is in our area to be able to take care of businesses of all sizes. So, Truett.io is our website, TRUIT. And I'm on every major social media platform. You can even just look up John Hansman and I show up pretty easily. There is a guy who's what is he? He's like he's like a scientist for aeronautics or something. That's not me, just for the record. Cybersecurity John is who you're looking for. But we're in the same, we really love focusing in on fixing people's cybersecurity. Mm-hmm. It's something that we really enjoy. And so the same way we do cybersecurity risk conversations where we'll sit down and actually do a strategy session with you and help you understand what the next steps are.
Exactly.
There are some natural next steps that you want to do so you can understand your risk level. And that's what we do at Truett as well.
Well, John, it's been so great talking
so much
to
fun.
you. Yep. I hope you have safe travels home. Thanks. All right. Let's do it again soon.